Hi everyone, my name, as you know, is Alyssa Kiefer. I'm a nurse at Lancaster General, and I did a project on looking at cancer incidence rates and nuclear power plants. Some of the background on this project was I wanted to look at the correlation, if there was any, between nuclear power plants in a state and the cancer incidence rates because of my interest in oncology itself, mostly because of my employment on an inpatient oncology unit. I was also interested in pursuing information about cancer incidence, what might cause cancer, what are trends that we see between people who have cancer and those who don't, where they live, lifestyles, and so on. I know of a couple of people who live close to 3 Mile Island, who most of them have thyroid cancer, and they attribute their close proximity to 3 Mile Island to be their cause or a factor in their having thyroid cancer. So these were some of the reasons that I chose cancer incidence rates and nuclear power plants for my project. When I started this project, I did a literature review. The one study I found was by Ma, Lainhair, Fornoff, and Shen from 2011. The study was mostly focused on childhood cancer incidence. However, it reviewed cases between the years 1986 and 2005, looking at a long time span for kids between the ages of 0 years old and 14 years old and the cancer incidence. They had looked at, or they had created 4 zones related to the proximity to nuclear power plants in Illinois. The zones were 10 miles or fewer, 11 to 20 miles, 21 to 30 miles, and greater than 30-mile proximity to a nuclear power plant. And they had actually broken up the time frame between 1986 and 2005 into 2 different groups because the completion of their information varied between the 2 groups. They had 100% completion for the 1996 to 2005, but they only had 91% completion between 1986 and 1995. So they viewed those 2 time frames separately when they looked at their results. Their results, however, did not support that nuclear power plants influence the childhood cancer rates, at least in the state of Illinois. The second article that I had looked at was by Cuckoo and May from 2012. They had been looking at the cancer incidence and mortality in the country of Romania. They were specifically comparing the cancer incidence rates and mortality rates of Cernavodă and the rest of Romania. You can see here Cernavodă in the country of Romania, and this particular town has a nuclear power plant in it. Interestingly enough, they actually saw a lower rate in Cernavodă compared to the rest of the country. My third article was by Cutler from 2007. This article had looked at research on radiation levels and cancer incidence related to these radiation levels. It claims that lower levels actually increase the efficacy of cell apoptosis, so that self-destruct that a cell has when the DNA replication is messed up. So they're saying that low levels of radiation actually would then decrease the cancer incidence. However, higher levels of radiation would increase the cancer incidence because it decreases that efficacy of the cell apoptosis. So a couple of things that I noted when I was looking for articles was that many of the studies performed were in Romania or Ukraine or Japan rather than the United States, and most of them focused on the results of nuclear leakage or nuclear meltdown rather than just living within close proximity. There was very little research in the United States, and most of that research was focused on childhood cancers, specifically blood cancers for children, and a focus on thyroid cancers, because there is that common thought of nuclear power or radiation causing thyroid cancer. My research question was, is there a difference in cancer incidence rates between states with nuclear power plants and those that do not have any nuclear power plants? The hypothesis that I had is that there would be an increase in cancer incidence in the states with nuclear power plants as compared to the states that did not have any nuclear power plants. Therefore, my null hypothesis was that there would be no difference in the cancer rates between states with a nuclear power plant and those that did not have any nuclear power plants. So, in order to conduct this research, the methodology that I used was data retrieval from information that was already online. I looked at the nuclear power plant by state. I wanted to know how many states there were in, or how many power plants there were in each state. And I also looked at the cancer incidence by state. How many people per state had cancer? So the website that I used was the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission for the nuclear power plants by state, and the cancer incidence rate by state for the American Cancer Society. It was very interesting to see. I'll just show you real quick. This is the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It shows you each state and it gives you where the power plant is. You can then look for more information by clicking on that dot. And if you want even more information, for instance, if you wanted to know the exact town that the power plant was in, you would just click that little link and it would take you here, and you can see that Monticello Nuclear Generating Plant was in Monticello, Minnesota. For the cancer incidence by state, the American Cancer Society has a wonderful website that actually shows you various cancer statistics. It's the Cancer Statistics Center. You can look at their estimations for the year 2016. You can look at past years. And you can look at the incidence and death rates, not just the estimations. So I looked at this information, the incidence rates for 2008 to 2012. I was able to pull up an Excel sheet that gave me all cancers. It didn't have it broken down by cancer type for each state. I then pulled that into my spreadsheet, which is here. I had filled out every state, and then I had the power plants in that state, the state again, and then the cancer incidence. These numbers for the cancer incidence are based off of per 100,000 people. So in the state of Alabama, they say that there is 466.2 people per 100,000 people who have cancer. I then ran a regression, or I then found Pearson's R correlation coefficient, which you can see here. I ran a regression test, created a scatter plot, and then calculated the prediction equation and interpreted my results. So this is a shot of my summary output for my regression test. You can see here that I had a small to medium correlation. There's a small to medium effect, or low to medium effect of nuclear power plants on the cancer incidence rate. Down here with my x variable 1, the number was 1.86, and this number relates to the slope on my scatter plot. I was able to see that for every nuclear power plant added to a state, the cancer incidence in that state would then increase by 1.86, so nearly 2 people per 100,000 would then have cancer. So the results of my study showed that there is a low to medium correlation between nuclear power plants and cancer incidence rates. As I said, nearly 2 people per 100,000 would end up having cancer if one nuclear power plant was added to a state. This means that for the state of Pennsylvania, which has a population of 12.8 million, if we would add one more nuclear power plant, the thought is according to this correlation, that there would be a total of 238 more cancer incidences in our state. So this shows a positive correlation, but it does not mean that the nuclear power plants cause cancer. As far as limitations and conclusions go, it was noted that Illinois actually has the highest number of nuclear power plants. They have 11, but they do not have the highest cancer incidence rate. However, Kentucky, which has no nuclear power plants, does have the highest cancer incidence rate. The lowest cancer incidence rate actually had, that state had 3 power plants listed for it. So some other limitations would be that I didn't look at the specific types of cancer, and I didn't look at other factors like lifestyle or air pollution for that area, so on and so forth. So we don't know if in the state of Kentucky, people actually have a higher rate of lung cancer because they smoke more or something along those lines. We don't know what other factors influence the data that I did collect. So that would be a limitation to my study. In conclusion, we can see that there is a small to medium correlation between nuclear power plants and cancer incidence rates, but this still doesn't cause cancer. It doesn't mean that there is causation, but it is an unnerving statistic. So that is my study. I hope that you found it interesting, and that's all.